Foo lion dogs. Foo lions or Foo Dogs, traditionally known in Chinese as Xi and often referred to as Foo Dogs in the West, are a popular representation of the lion in pre-modern China. These guardians traditionally stood in front of Chinese imperial palaces, imperial tombs, government offices, temples, and the homes of government officials and the wealthy, and were believed to have powerful mythic protective benefits. They are also used in other artistic contexts, for example on doorknockers and in pottery. In China and in other places around the world where Chinese people have immigrated and settled, especially in local Chinatowns, pairs of guardian lion statues are still common decorative and symbolic elements at the entrances to restaurants, hotels, supermarkets, and other structures, with one sitting on each side of the entrance. Lions are usually depicted in pairs. When used as statues, the pair would consist of a male resting his paw upon an embroidered ball, in imperial contexts, representing supremacy over the world, and a female reassuring a playful cub that is on its back, representing nurture. Description: the lions are traditionally carved from decorative stone, such as marble and granite, or cast in bronze or iron. Because of the high cost of these materials and the labor required to produce them, private use of guardian lions was traditionally reserved for wealthy or elite families. Indeed, a traditional symbol of a family's wealth or social status was the placement of guardian lions in front of the family home. However, in modern times, less expensive lions, mass-produced in concrete and resin, have become available, and their use is therefore no longer restricted to the elite. The lions are always presented in pairs, a manifestation of yin and yang, the female representing yin and the male, yang. The male lion has its right front paw on an embroidered ball called a shu qi, which is sometimes carved with a geometric pattern known in the West as the flower of life. The female is essentially identical, but has a cub under the closer left paw to the male, representing the cycle of life. Symbolically, the female Foo lion protects those dwelling inside, while the male guards the structure. Sometimes the female has her mouth closed and the male has his mouth open. This symbolizes the enunciation of the sacred word Om. However, Japanese adaptations state that the male is inhaling, representing life, while the female exhales, representing death. Other styles have both lions with a single large pearl in each of their partially open mouths. The pearl is carved so that it can roll about in the lion's mouth but is sized just large enough so that it can never be removed. According to Feng Shui, the correct placement of the lions is important to ensure their beneficial effect. When looking out of a building through the entrance to be guarded, looking in the same direction as the lions, the male is placed on the left and the female on the right. So, when looking at the entrance from outside the building, facing the lions, the male lion with the ball is on the right, and the female with the cub is on the left. Chinese lions are intended to reflect the emotion of the animal as opposed to its reality. This is in distinct opposition to the traditional English lion, which is a lifelike depiction of the animal. The claws, teeth, and eyes of the Chinese lion represent power. Few if any muscles are visible in the Chinese lion, whereas the English lion shows its power through its lifelike characteristics rather than through stylized representation. Buddhism and Narasimha. Foo dogs have been found in religious art as early as 208 BC. Gradually, they were incorporated as guardians of the Chinese imperial dharma. Lions seemed like appropriately regal beasts to guard the emperor's gates and have been used as such ever since. There are various styles of guardian lions, reflecting influences from different time periods, imperial dynasties, and regions of China. These styles vary in their artistic detail and adornment, as well as in the depiction of the lions, from fierce to serene. Narasimha, Sanskrit Narasimha, also spelled Nrsimha, Sha, Narsing, Narsing, and Narsingha, is an avatar of the Hindu god Vishnu and one of Hinduism's most popular deities, as evidenced in early epics, iconography, and temple and festival worship for over a millennium. The adoption of Buddha as one of the avatars of Vishnu under Bhagavatism was a catalyzing factor in assimilation during the Gupta period between 330 and 550 CE. Mahayana Buddhism is sometimes called Buddha Bhagavatism. In India, a panel dating to the 3rd or 4th century AD shows a full theriomorphic squatting lion with 2 extra human arms behind his shoulders holding Vaishnava emblems. This lion, flanked by 5 heroes, Virsh, has often been identified as an early depiction of Narasimha. Standing called images of Narasimha from the early Gupta period survive from temples at Tighawa and Iran. These sculptures are 2-armed, long-maned frontal, wearing only a lower garment, and with no demon figure of Hiranyakashipu. Images representing the narrative of Narasimha slaying the demon Hiranyakasipu survive from slightly later Gupta period temples, one at Madhya and one from a temple doorway now set into the Kumra Math at Nachna, both dated to the late 5th or early 6th century A.D. Although the form of the Chinese guardian lion was quite varied during its early history in China, the appearance, pose, and accessories of the lions eventually became standardized and formalized during the Ming and Qing dynasties into more or less their present form. Koma Inu in Japanese Buddhism. Meant to ward off evil spirits, modern Koma Inu statues are almost identical, but one has the mouth open, the other closed. This is a very common characteristic in religious statue pairs at both temples and shrines. This pattern is, however, Buddhist in origin. See the article about the Ni, human form guardians of Buddhist temples, and has a symbolic meaning. The open mouth is pronouncing the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, which is pronounced A, while the closed one is uttering the last letter, which is pronounced to represent the beginning and the end of all things. They combine to form the sound Om, or a sacred syllable in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Koma Inu strongly resemble Chinese guardian lions and, in fact, originate from the Tang dynasty of China. The Chinese guardian lions are believed to have been influenced by lion pelts and lion depictions introduced through trade from either the Middle East or India, countries where the lion existed and was a symbol of strength. During its transportation along the Silk Road, however, the symbol changed, acquiring a distinctive look. The first lion statue in India appeared around the 3rd century BC on top of a column erected by King Ashoka. Shiza. Shiza, SHS. Okinawan, Saiza, is a traditional ryukyuan decoration, often in pairs, resembling a cross between a lion and a dog, from Okinawan mythology. People place pairs of shiza on their rooftops or flank the gates of their houses. Shiza are wards believed to protect against some evils. When in pairs, the left shiza traditionally has a closed mouth, the right one an open mouth. Shiza legend. When a Chinese emissary returned from a voyage to the court at Shuri Castle, he brought a gift for the king, a necklace decorated with a figurine of a shiza dog. The king found it charming and wore it underneath his clothes. At the Naha Port Bay, the village of Madanbashi was often terrorized by a sea dragon who ate the villagers' property. One day, the king was visiting the village, and one of these attacks happened. All the people ran and hid. The local Noro had been told in a dream to instruct the king when he visited to stand on the beach and lift up his figurine towards the dragon. She sent the boy, Chiga, to tell him the message. He faced the monster with the figurine held high, and immediately a giant roar sounded all through the village, a roar so deep and powerful that it even shook the dragon. A massive boulder then fell from heaven and crushed the dragon's tail. He couldn't move and eventually died. This boulder and the dragon's body became covered with plants and surrounded by trees, and can still be seen today. It is the Ganamui Woods near Naha Ohashi Bridge. The townspeople built a large stone shiza to protect it from the dragon's spirit and other threats. Creation of the name Foo Dog. Foo Dogs are the ancient sacred dogs of Asia who guard Buddhist temples. The association between these dogs and Buddha is of great significance. Foo Dogs have the appearance of a lion. The lion in the Buddhist religion is seen as sacred and has sometimes been offered to Buddha as a sacrifice. The name given to these guardians originates from China. The Chinese word for Buddha is Fo, which led to the original title, Dog of Fo. There have been other theories that the name developed from Fu Chao, but there is no actual proof of this. Another name given to the beast is the Lion of Korea. This, of course, is due to the creature's close appearance to lions. Foo Dogs can be traced as early as the Han Dynasty. Their first appearance was in Chinese art, which dates back to approximately 208 BC to about 221 AD. Foo Dogs vanished for nearly 400 years after their first appearance. They later returned to the Tang Dynasty that was in power from 618 to 917 AD. Foo Dogs were popular because of their meaning. The lion is a creature of the feline race that is known as the proud master of all cats. Its introduction into Chinese art coincided with Buddhism. The Foo Dog was the protector of sacred buildings and a defender of the law. The dogs were commonly placed at business institutions, temple gates, home entrances, and estates. It was also not uncommon to see these sacred dogs guarding tombs or placed in front of government buildings to scare evil spirits. Through the ages, Foo Dogs were frequently given as gifts to the emperor. It would be presented as sculptures or in the form of artwork. Foo Dog artwork varies. Buddha was sometimes depicted on the back of the great beast, but Foo Dogs are more often displayed in a powerful guarding position. The creature is usually presented holding a spear in its paw. This was the representation of the peace and serenity the animal would maintain for the sanctuary it was guarding, thus discouraging any wrongdoers and demon spirits from entering the place of tranquility. The Foo Dog comes in many shapes and sizes, different materials, and colors. Their faces have a mischievous and almost devilish look about them, and their eyes are normally wide open with a tiny speck in the middle. This threatening appearance is what gives the idea that they guard against evil spirits. It is important to point out that the Foo dog is also known as the celestial dog and the happiness dog. The animal is a symbol of energy and value and is often displayed as a male/female pair. The male plays with a ball that symbolizes the earth, while the female holds a cup. The Foo dog is embodied in a rich Chinese history and tradition. They are still very popular today, not only in China, but also in other parts of the world. They are fantastic dogs, not only infused with artwork but also with meaning. Sightings. On August 15, 2013, the zoo in the People's Park of Luoha, in the central province of Henan, replaced exotic exhibits with common species, according to the state-run Beijing Youth Daily. It quoted a mother who was visiting the zoo to show her son the different sounds animals made, but he pointed out that the animal in the cage labeled African lion was barking. Apparently, officials in Luo City Zoo in central Henan province hoped no one would notice when they decided to make the switch and send the enclosure's regular resident, an African lion, away to a breeding center. Turns out it was no Foo lion, but just a Tibetan Mastiff, a large hairy breed of dog which, for what it's worth, more closely resembles the king of the jungle than does perhaps any other domestic canine. One family surnamed Liu took their 6-year-old son to the zoo in People's Park, reported the local Daha daily newspaper. On the way, Mrs. Liu was teaching her son all the sounds that the different animals make. But when they arrived, her son said the lion was barking like a dog. Mrs. Liu told the Beijing Youth Daily, "The zoo is absolutely trying to cheat us. They're trying to disguise dogs as lions." And the dog for cat swap wasn't the only attempt to pull the wool over the eyes of zoo patrons. There was also a domestic dog housed in the wolf pen, and a white fox was found pacing the leopard exhibit. The most notable account of Foo lions was by the medieval explorer Marco Polo, 1254 AD to 1324 AD. Marco Polo made vivid accounts of wolf lions, dragons, and even unicorns. However, the credibility of Polo's depictions of Asia is vastly questionable. Skeptics have wondered if Marco Polo actually went to China or if he perhaps wrote his book based on hearsay. While Polo describes paper money and the burning of coal, he fails to mention the Great Wall of China, Chinese characters, chopsticks, or foot binding.